well. And we can't make them do anything different.
Now, as Van Pembroke grieves, she holds on to her memory of her son. This tattoo, a symbol that his story isn't over, a reminder as she fights for change in healthcare.
The system is broken, and it's failed a lot of people. And I don't know what I can do to fix it, but it has to be fixed.
If you or someone you know needs help, you can reach the Canada Suicide Prevention Service by calling 1-833-456-4566. And you can also text 45645. In other local news now, there's a buzz around electric vehicles in Windsor. The local EV Society says it's an exciting time, but the first question people ask when looking at a vehicle is, where can they charge it? The CBC's Chris Ensing takes a look at what it takes to put one in your home.
The panel box here.
That's correct. Yeah, this would represent like a main breaker panel in a home.
Advanced electric and controls are the people Tesla recommends their vehicle owners use to install a charging station at home. 10 years ago, were you thinking about how much that would play in your life, the idea of setting up people for their electric car?
No, not so much. We were kind of focused on solving other people's issues, adding an additional receptacle, perhaps something out of convenience. We had done a few EVs early on. Didn't really see too much traction with that, but lately, it's actually picked up quite a bit. We've been doing quite a few more.
A routine install could put this outlet in your home, same as most stoves. You could plug your vehicle into that same outlet your toaster uses, but it could take 4 times as long to charge. This option is called a level 2. It could do a full charge depending on your vehicle overnight. How much might it cost for someone to get that infrastructure inside of their house?
That can be a difficult question, and it really does vary. It's all based on what you've got existing in the home, what you're trying to achieve, or what you're working with. You could have something as simple as a couple of $100 that's going to be giving you an outlet near the panel if the panel's in that garage, but alternately if the panel's in the opposite corner of the house and then you've got a finished basement where now we're dealing with drywall or plaster, the timeline can change quite a bit, and so could the price accordingly.
There's a surging interest. The federal government launched a local program in December that covers half the cost of a new charger install for municipalities, businesses, and multi-unit residential buildings.
We've had a great response from the community. We're actually fully allocated, but with that being said, we're still accepting applications if there's potential for new funding or other funding becomes available.
This program brings 130 online.
It's like the first gas stations. We want to make sure that we're getting that out so that the infrastructure can be set up.
An app that maps charging stations marks 64 in the Windsor-Essex area the public can use. Windsor will also see 11 new stations come online next month, the city installing those, saying they'll be free to use. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Leaders are traveling around the province to drum up support, and the pollsters are hard at work. And to take a look at what the polls are saying in these early days of the campaign, we're joined by Eric Grenier. He's a poll analyst, a writer at the website The Writ, and he's CBC's poll tracker for this Ontario election. So, Eric, as you look at the polls today, where are the parties starting from in this campaign?
Well, the PCs under Doug Ford are starting in the best position. They're leading in our poll tracker by a pretty wide margin. And if the election were held today, Doug Ford would probably win another majority government because the support he has, while it's a little bit lower than he had in 2018, his lead over the second place party, the Liberals, is wider than it was back in the last election. But the fact that the Liberals are now in second place is actually a bit of a change since the last election because the New Democrats had finished in second place back in 2018. Now they're in third. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with the Liberals and the New Democrats as they fight for that second place position. But right now for Doug Ford, it's his election to lose.
And there's been some talk about some of the smaller parties. So how significant of a difference could they make in this election?
Yeah, well, Mike Schreiner of the Greens, in this campaign, he actually is now an incumbent MPP because he won a seat in the last election. That'll give the Greens much more of a platform because Mike Schreiner will be in the debates. And so the Green Party will be trying to get a second seat. We'll also have parties like the Ontario Party, the New Blue Party, parties that are further to the right than the Progressive Conservatives. They're following in the footsteps a little bit of Maxime Bernier's People's Party in the last federal election. Not clear what kind of impact they'll have just yet. With the kind of gap that we see in the polls right now that is favoring the PCs, they probably don't need to worry about their right flank, but we'll see what happens over the next few weeks.
And late last year, Rick Nichols, MPP for Chatham-Kent-Leamington, joined the Ontario Party and became its only sitting MPP. So in your experience, how hard is it for a candidate to switch parties and retain their seat?
It's tough. It's tough when it's especially a new party. If you're crossing the floor to an established traditional party, it's a lot easier to get people to vote for you. But when it's a party that hasn't existed before, when people haven't voted for that party before, it can be really tough. If you're running as an independent, that is also really difficult. And again, if we look at what happened with Max Bernier, when he left the Conservative Party, he was a high-profile MP. He has twice failed to win his old seats, and it'll be tough for Rick Nichols. But we'll see how the campaign unfolds. It's certainly something to watch.
So what local races are you watching here in Windsor-Essex?
I think it's going to be Essex is the one to watch. The New Democrats don't have an incumbent this time, and so they're going to have to be defending that seat. We've seen Essex has gone from orange to blue at the federal level over the last few elections, so the PCs are going to be trying to do the same thing. That would be the riding to watch in the region. The NDP, won the two urban Windsor ridings by pretty wide margins last time. If the campaign goes badly for Andrew Horwath, maybe she'll have to head down to Windsor to play defense, but otherwise, Essex is the riding to watch.
And you're heading up the CBC poll tracker for this election. Can you tell us what that is and how our listeners and viewers can use it?
Yeah, it's a aggregation of all the polls. We've done some for the last few federal and provincial campaigns for the CBC. It takes all the polls together and boils it down into a single number people can follow, because in an election campaign, there's multiple polls that can be out every single day, and you can get a little bit of a whiplash just trying to follow the numbers. So it's a way to understand where the parties stand in terms of public opinion, what that could produce in terms of a government. And people can find it at cbc.ca/poll tracker. It'll be updated throughout the campaign. And once people, take a look at where things stand in the polls, they can take a look at where the parties stand on the issues and their promises over the next few weeks.
Thanks so much for this, Eric. That's Eric Grenier. He's a poll analyst, a writer at the website The Writ, and he will be running CBC's poll tracker for this election. The World Health Organization has released some staggering numbers on the global toll taken by the COVID pandemic. The WHO says nearly 15 million people have died from the virus itself and from the impact it's had on healthcare systems. That's 13% higher than the normal number of deaths expected over 2 years. And it's more than double the official numbers reported to the WHO. Most of the deaths were in Southeast Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And Windsor's local acting medical officer of health is calling on the province to reinstate mandatory masking in all indoor settings. He sent a joint letter to the province's chief medical officer of health in partnership with 2 other regional top doctors. Ontario scrapped most mask rules in March. Meanwhile, the mask remains a symbol of the pandemic. And in our city, an art piece has been created using leftover scraps from the many masks that were sewed together during the pandemic, and it's on display now at the Art Gallery of Windsor.
So it's a great quilt. It was created by the Windsor Essex Sewing Force, which was a group that was kind of formed in 2020 to kind of meet the needs of creating cloth masks for the pandemic. So people coming together to sew these masks for healthcare workers and other people who were, at the time we had a shortage of these kind of masks available. So the group initially formed to kind of fill that need. And after the masks were created, they had the idea to create a community quilt to kind of honor the COVID pandemic and honor the people who were touched by the pandemic and worked in the pandemic, using some of the scraps left over from some of the masks they had created. So there were several hundred panels that were initially submitted for the community quilt, of which these ones were selected and put together. It took about 7 months to actually build this quilt after the panels were submitted, and time before that for the artists to actually make the panels, create the panels, and kind of create their interpretation of it. So it's a great artistic, cultural, health-related kind of project that kind of organically sprung out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sewing and the art that can be expressed through things like sewing. So when they hear that there's a quilt, they may have an idea of what a quilt might look like they find online, or a family quilt. When they come and see the artistic beauty and the artistic, the level of artistic ingenuity involved in the creation of this quilt, it's really impressive to a lot of people, and it really makes you feel connected to the community, right? a quilt is kind of a warm embrace, and to see these images on something like that really ties you back to the community in a way. So people are incredibly impressed with it and incredibly happy that we have it here.
From Windsor foster child to famed dominatrix, Terry Jean Bedford made headlines when she challenged Canada's prostitution laws, a fight she took all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, Bedford's story will be brought to life on stage. The show, Dominatrix on Trial, premieres this evening here in her hometown. For Bedford, it brings her life full circle. Jacob Barker has the story.
You wouldn't like her when she's angry.
Terry Jean Bedford wrote this play to educate people about what she went through while making a fundamental change to sex work laws in the country.
A lot of them don't know the real story behind the story. The adversity, the sorrow, the pain, the suffering, losing my anonymity and autonomy all in one foul swoop, losing your house, your home, the respect of your family and your friends, and then coming full circle as a champion. That's what I want them to see.
The play is biographical and is based on a novel she wrote of the same name, Dominatrix on Trial. In 2013, the Supreme Court of Canada unanimously struck down some of this country's anti-prostitution laws. It was a battle Bedford had been waging for years. At the time, she joked about then Prime Minister Stephen Harper making her a government whip. It's a victory she credits to her lawyer, Alan Young.
All I did was stand there and say, I'm in solidarity. I've walked this walk. I've talked this talk. I've been there. I've done that. And this is what I've learned.
I said, turn off your cell phones.
The play is being produced by the Wawayatanon Feminist Theatre in Windsor, a big story to be told by a community group.
We chose to focus strictly on the human element. So although we talk a lot about the laws, it's the emotion behind those laws that we are really working on.
Bedford is still pushing for change today, in particular the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act, laws put in place by the Harper government following the Supreme Court's ruling in her favor. Critics say those laws endanger the lives of sex workers by restricting certain aspects of sex work. Bedford is calling on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to have it repealed.
I don't think his father would be very happy with him, because even his father agreed that the government has no place in the bedrooms of the nation. The government has no place in the private lives of consenting adults. We are not criminals.
Bedford says that it's a vindication of sorts that the production is premiering in her hometown, where her humble beginnings led to a far from average life. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
The play kicks off a 3-night run at Windsor's Cortisone Theatre this evening. The winning streak of a Toronto woman on Jeopardy has caught the attention of a man from Windsor who is also on the game show. Del Molnar caught up with Jack Ramiri and found out how remarkable winning 22 games on Jeopardy can be.
And I'd been watching the game for many years. And to finally walk out on that stage and hear Johnny Gilbert say,
a lawyer from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, Jack Ramieri.
The thought that went through my mind is, gee, Toto, I guess we're not in Kansas anymore.
Windsor lawyer Jack Ramiri was on Jeopardy back in 1996. He didn't make it past his first appearance, so he knows how remarkable the 22-day winning streak by Torontonian Matea Roach is.
But she's only 23. I've seen a couple categories where she's not as strong at the rest, but I'm very impressed by the breadth of knowledge at her age.
Matea might know some of the lyrics to Oh Canada. What was her response? Oh Canada, yes.
A couple of days ago, the answer to the final Jeopardy question was a piece of cake, but Ramiri says there's no way the producers could have handed it to her on a silver platter.
As you show up in the dressing room, they go so-and-so and so-and-so. Off you go to take on the champion, so it's all completely random.
And Ramiri says if anyone thinks they can win on Jeopardy, they should know they have to have the knowledge and good timing on the buzzer. Buzz in too early and you're locked out for half a second. He knows. That's the mistake he made.
Once you've got that rhythm and timing down, if you've got the knowledge to back it up, you become to the point where defeating you is going to become very, very difficult.
So Ramiri assumes since Roach has the timing and the knowledge, she will likely go on to win more games. He can hardly wait for the Tournament of Champions. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
A live look outside there. It's looking gray, and that's fitting because there's rain in the forecast. Dahlia Ashry will be here right after the break with your weather. Stay with us. Dahlia Ashry is here now for a look at our weather forecast. Dahlia, it's a gray one out there. Looks like more rain on the way.
That's right, Katerina. I mean, it has been pretty gloomy, but I do have some good news and some light at the end of the tunnel. But first, let's get started with the daytime highs. In Windsor, sitting at 15 degrees. London, 17. Peterborough, 17. So right now, this time, we are below the average. Usually it's around 19 degrees. And the current temperatures right now in Windsor, 14, and it is going to get a little better throughout the weekend. But right now, let's talk about the winds. There is some northerly pressure that's coming downwards. So as you can see here in Sarnia, it is a little cooler because of those winds that are coming down. And here, taking a look at the satellite. So We are seeing a little bit here in the bottom corner, a little bit of precipitation that will be making its way throughout the weekend, but there will be some light at the end of the tunnel, like I was saying earlier. And, rain, go away, come back another day. We'll have some sunny temperatures coming your way. But like I said, so the clouds are still there. They will be clearing by Friday, 3 p.m. We see a little bit more. The precipitation starts to slowly creep up and creep down southerly. And as we see here, there is a little bit of rainfall accumulation. Like I was talking about earlier, it will be raining, but Leamington is sitting at 8 millimeters, and that'll get better shortly. Overnight tonight, Windsor 10 degrees. And there is that rainfall that we were talking about earlier. Leamington, 8 degrees. Chatham, Kent, 9 degrees. Sarnia, 8 degrees. London, sitting at 9 degrees. And now let's take a look at your 5-day forecast. We're going into the weekend. Friday, raining, sitting at 17. Saturday, 16. A little bit of sunshine. Sunday, Mother's Day is looking great at a high 16, low 8. And Monday and Tuesday, 18 and 20, nice and sunny, wrapping up that weekend. Katerina?
Yeah, as you said, that light on the horizon. That's awesome to see.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks
Katrina.
so much for that,
Thank
Dahlia.
you. Take care. Have a great weekend.
When we come back, we have some more news updates for you, so stay with us.
home.
Welcome back. Forecasters say the threat of severe weather continues in the U.S. Southwest after tornadoes struck last night in Texas and Oklahoma. Some of the worst damage was in the city of Seminole. There were no reports of serious injuries, but there were flash floods, and some roads were still closed this morning. There is the chance of more severe weather in the south through tomorrow. The Midwest could be under threat this weekend. To Italy now, where the coast is filling up with visitors around the port city of Trieste, but they're not the paying kind. The dots between the boats in these areas are barrel jellyfish. The same thing happened last spring, and for boaters, it's something that's hard to miss in more ways than one. Scientists say warmer sea temperatures may be causing an increase in reproduction. Wind and water movement could also be forcing them to the shore in greater numbers. And that just makes me go, ooh, ick. Bet you've seen this viral tearjerker moment from Tuesday night's Jays-Yankees game.
Drilled to left field, a long home run for Aaron Judge. Into the second deck, his 9th of the season.
Aaron Judge clobbers a ball to the second deck, and a Jays fan picks it up and hands it to a young Yankees fan wearing a Judge shirt, who promptly bursts into tears of joy. Well, you knew that there would be more to this story. The two fans got to meet Aaron Judge in the Yankees dugout during batting practice yesterday, and young Derek Rodriguez, who is named after Yankee superstar Derek Jeter, got emotional meeting his hero. Judge, for his part, thought the whole thing was pretty great.
It was like a roller coaster of emotions, because I'm like, yay, the Yankees tied the game. Yay, Aaron Judge hit the home run. Wait a minute. And then he handed me the ball, and I was really, really happy. And I can't explain it, though. It's hard.
That's a cute kid. Young Derek composed himself well. Aaron Judge met with the families of both fans. There were autographs, batting gloves, jersey, photos, the whole 9 yards. Michael Lanzalotta, the generous Jays fan, is getting the hero treatment for making Derek's day. And the best news, both families and 9 friends each have been invited to New York to catch a game at Yankee Stadium and the Judges' chamber seats in right field. What a great ending to this story. And the Jays won last night 2-1, ending the Yankees' 11-game winning streak. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. And we're on social media as well, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.